Well, it happened. Interest rates just shot above 6% for VA. And we've been going back and forth, but typically at the end of the week, we have been down just slightly below 6%. But this week, not even some of the good news could overcome the bad news, which was inflation. So let's get into the housing market update. There is so much to go through this week, and I want to make sure that you're all aware of this before we head into the weekend. Now, if you look at the big three, prices are steady, not really moving up. It just really depends on the location and whether or not you have competition on the home. But I do know some homes in some areas are definitely going above asking price, and you're seeing multiple offers. Inventory is up. That's pretty normal, not only in Oahu, but across the nation too. We'll take a look at that. And interest rates, yes, that big, red, ugly up arrow. Interest rates are up this week. And what's the headline news this week? Well, let's get into that. We'll talk about what moved the market. There's about four things really that moved the market this week. We'll break those down. We got an existing home sales report that showed some steady, normal improvement. Inflation skyrockets. Guess what? When that happens, interest rates follow, and they don't follow down. They go up like rockets do. First-time home buyer tips, we'll go over that a little bit. And then what are some of the costs that you need to budget for when buying a home? We'll break that down, and then we'll take a look at VA rates, in-depth look at that as we end this housing market update. So President Trump and his entourage, Elon Musk, Jensen Huang, Tim Cook, and a few others, Secretary of State Marco Rubio, are in China right now. And one of the good things that has come out of the meeting so far, at least in words, at least in a handshake, is that China agrees that the Strait of Hormuz should remain free and open, and they also agree that Iran should never have nuclear weapons. Now, hey, a handshake is great, but what we need to see is the action. What's going to happen in the coming weeks? Will China stop providing arms secretly to Iran, or will they continue to do that? Will they kind of push them? And you also see what else is going on in the Gulf. You see UAE, you see Saudi Arabia. They are now attacking Iran. So it's not Iran versus Israel or Israel versus Iran now. It's pretty much the entire Middle East is like they've had enough. And they're protecting themselves because Iran has proven that they really don't care about their neighbors. We also had Fed Chair Warsh was confirmed by the Senate this week. And, that was good news on Wednesday, and that helped bring rates down. And that actually helped rates as we started the day on Thursday. But you know what? It'll be interesting to see just how Fed Chair Warsh goes. His first meeting will be mid-May. Will he lower rates? Not likely. He's not in a position to lower rates with inflation higher and with a very strong job market. In his first meeting, he is probably not going to make President Trump happy. President Trump wants the Fed to lower the Fed funds rate, but really there's no reason for them to right now. And here's who that is hurting. That's hurting homeowners. People who are trying to buy a home, people who are trying to sell a home. Mortgage rates will stay elevated as long as we have inflation up. I do think the job market underlying is a little weak, but we keep getting these rock star jobs reports coming in. Even the ADP weekly jobs report, if you push that out over 4 weeks, we're looking at about 140,000 new jobs in the month of May. So it's tough to lower the Fed funds rate when we have a strong jobs market and we have high inflation. Matter of fact, in many cases, that is a reason to raise the Fed funds rate. And there will be some pressure, I believe, especially with Fed Chair Powell staying on the board. There will be some pressure from some members of the Fed to increase the Fed funds rate. We also had Iran. The Iran news this week has just been continued to be a buzzkill. President Trump himself said that the ceasefire was on life support. It certainly looked like it was dead. As we started the week. We haven't really heard too much about it over the course of the last day, but hey, I've been on an airplane, so who knows. And then the big news this week, and really what has driven rates above 6%, it's inflation. We'll break that down here in a sec. Well, let's get into existing home sales. We had a really solid report for April. We saw a 2.1% increase month over month in the median home price at $418,000. So a second month in a row that we've seen an increase. April rebound also as well, and the number of sales up 0.2%. Not a lot. It would be much higher if interest rates were lower. And you got to remember, we went to war in March. People who closed in April went into contract in February and March. So we should see an increase, but will we see that increase that we normally see as we get into the spring season? That's the big question. First-time home buyers, here's some good news, up from 32% to 33%. So that's great news. 4.4 months of supply, that's up from 4.1%. So you have more supply. We have more inventory, 1.47 million existing homes for sale. 4.6 months of inventory, that equals a balanced market. We're not quite there yet, but we need to see a robust spring and summer home selling market, existing homes market, in order for us to break out of this housing recession that we have been in now really for 3, almost 4 years. Here's a real stinker, guys. This is the Consumer Price Index. This is the measure of inflation for the regular Janes and Joes like you and me. The April headline jumped 0.6%, and that was driven largely by food, energy, and gas prices. But it was in line with estimates, so we popped up to 3.8%, which was no bueno. Core was up 0.4%. The expectations it would be up 0.3%. We're only at 2.8%. We're still near 5-year lows, but you're seeing a rise, and that is certainly not good. Airline prices, I know I just bought a couple tickets to fly to the mainland, and it's not cheap. It's going up. Those prices are going up. That report that we got on Tuesday was not a good report. That was a very bad report. You saw interest rates go up. And then on Wednesday, we had the wholesale inflation report, the producer price index. And that's basically for the people who provide the goods and services, the cost for them to buy their items. And that shot up 1.4%. That was much hotter than the 0.5%, almost 3 times as high as what was estimated. And it went from 4.3% to 6%. That was a huge spike, and that sent rates higher. The only thing that saved us yesterday or Wednesday was the confirmation of Chairman Warsh. So the core rose from 4% to 5.2%, which is also 3 times higher than the estimates. So really, inflation reports this week really hurt the market, but they really show the struggle that regular Joes and Janes are going through, and business owners, as the cost of goods, the cost of services, the cost of doing everything is starting to really take its toll on Americans. Like I told you, we had 33% of all existing home sales were first-time home buyers last month. And first-time home buyers, don't be discouraged. Your time will come, but you have to be ready. And here are 4 things that you can do as a first-time home buyer to be ready. First, save smart. Don't just keep your money in a checking account. Don't just keep your money in a regular bank savings account. There are a lot of different high-yield savings accounts that you can put your money in, so it starts making more money for you and is beating inflation. Yes, you can do that, and that's the first thing you have to do. Whether you're using a VA loan or not, you need to have some money in the bank, because there are some costs that come with buying a home that don't equate to the down payment. There's so much more. We'll get into that here shortly. The other thing is know your budget. You know, it's one thing to get pre-approved or pre-qualified, and you can do that with any bank. But with the broker, we do what I call a pre-approval plus. So when we pre-approve you, we go as high as you can go. And then we meet mano y mano, mano y mano, all right? And we go over your budget. We break it down. Maybe you're approved for $1 million, but maybe you have an $800,000 budget, but you don't know that. Most lenders, they say you're pre-approved for $1 million. And you know what? The buyer doesn't figure out what $1 million mortgage is until they get in the contract. And then they're like, I can't do this. So what we do is we go through and we help you figure out what that sweet spot is for your mortgage payment. And that helps you become a confident home buyer. So know your budget, super important. Check your credit. You can't check your credit enough, I think. You know, whether you're a year out, you're 18 months out, you're 2 years out, start working on your credit now. Remember, your credit score is your financial report card. The better your score, the better your rates are going to be, the less down payment you're going to need. Really, it just sets you up for success. And there's less chance of you going to be burdened because you have all these bills, that credit card bills that you have to pay. I've seen it many times, and you know what? You don't have to be young, you can be old. I've seen it where people come in, they get pre-approved, but they're maxed out. They are very risky people because it's just one thing that could happen to them, and guess what? They can't make that mortgage payment. So Check your credit, check it often. And sometimes, you know what, the credit bureaus and the credit card companies make mistakes. I've seen it in the past. I woke up one morning and my credit score was up 100 or down 100 points. I made some calls, figured out it was a mistake. It took a week, but that next Monday I woke up and my credit score was 100 points higher. So the bottom line is know your credit, check your credit regularly. There's a lot of apps down below. There'll be a link to an app on Key Steps that I use personally. It's great not only for credit, but it's also great for savings as well. And then the last thing, get pre-approved. Don't get pre-qualified. Matter of fact, get your pre-approval plus done with the broker. And we will make sure that you go into your first time home buying, you get those keys, and you have confidence through the entire process. You know, everybody wants to know what they're pre-approved for. They want to know what their mortgage payment is when they buy a home, but what are the other costs that you need to be prepared for? Well, when you're buying the home, you also need to be prepared for closing costs. The closing costs have to be paid when you're buying a home. They do not get rolled into the loan. You can't get seller credits, and right now on much of the island, buyers are getting seller credits to help pay their closing costs, even buy down their rate, even pay off some debt. But what else do you have to pay? You have taxes and insurance. In most mortgages, and certainly all VA mortgages, your tax and your insurance payment are going to be part of your mortgage payment. You're not going to pay those separately, all right? And part of your closing costs is going to be paying 1 year of homeowner's insurance up front. And then once you move in, once you get the keys to the home, well, here's where the expenses begin. Oh yeah, you got to pay, well, you're probably going to have to pay HOA fees depending on where you're living, but you have to pay electricity. If you don't have solar panels and you're running a central AC, you're looking at $400 or $500 a month electric bill if you run that AC, if you keep your AC like an icebox like I do. So you have to know what your electricity bill is, and that's one of the things that you should be asking the listing agents when you go visit the open house. Can you show me what the electric bills are? Super important. Do you pay for sewage? Do you pay for water? Oh yeah. You know what? When you move in this house, you're probably gonna need some new furniture. You're probably gonna wanna do a couple different things. So you need to have some money set aside, or at least budget, so that you can make those improvements that you want to make your home your happy place. Okay, so there's those costs there. And then, you know, you also got to take into consideration repairs. A lot of people, and I've done this in the past, they'll get a home warranty system, which covers the big ticket items. If I would have had a home warranty system on my home, my first home I bought, actually I got one afterwards, but it was after the fact. The weekend I moved in, the AC broke. This is 4th of July week in Virginia Beach. I got a 3-month-old. My wife's not happy, baby's not happy. It's 100 degrees, 100% humidity. You know what? If I had a home warranty system, I might not have had to pay $3,000 right out the gate to fix the AC or to replace the AC. So a home warranty system is something good to have. That's going to cost you maybe $100 to $150 a month on top of your mortgage payment. It's money well spent, but you gotta take into consideration what type of repairs that you're gonna have. If you have central AC, if you're central AC, and this is part of one of the reasons why you do a home inspection, you kind of figure out to at least get a good estimate of the remaining life on your big appliances, so that you can start budgeting to replace that refrigerator that's 12 years old, that's being conveyed with the house, or to replace the AC, or to replace the washing machine and the dishwasher. So really, you got to know those things. You got to put that money aside. The people who don't budget for that, they're the ones who end up maxing their credit cards out later, which is why you don't want to ever have your credit cards maxed when you're going into a home buying process. So those are some of the things that you need to be prepared for to pay when you buy a home. But with the right planning, home ownership can be a powerful way to build long-term wealth and financial stability. Trust me, I've done it, and so have many others, especially veterans who have used their VA benefit not once but twice, 3 times. All right, and every duty station they go to, they buy a home. I have those clients all the time, and you know what? They're not hurting for money because they've invested wisely, they budgeted, and they take advantage of their VA benefit. All right, let's take a look at rates real quick. It's not good, folks. All right, rates. And I said that at the beginning of the week. I know I had a realtor friend of mine talk to me. He's like, Larry, I didn't like your email on Monday when I sent my Monday rate update out. And I'm like, sorry, this is like the first weekend where my eternal optimist, mindset was kind of, it was dark cloud. I was Eeyore coming into this week. And you know what? for good reason. That inflation report, I knew those inflation reports were going to be bad. No end in sight to the conflict in the Middle East. So, really that producer price index on Wednesday really hurt. And that's what we're seeing right now. We're back above 6% for VA rates. Conventional, we're at up to 6.7%. We're getting closer to that 7%. I think when we get to 7% conventional, housing market's going to shut down. All right, unless you're a cash buyer. And this is actually where opportunity arises. But I think it's really going to hurt the housing market if we get conventional up to 7%, if we get to 6.5% on VA. I don't want to be there. I'm certainly not a negative Nelly guy, but rates are moving in the wrong direction. They started the year out great, but they're moving in the wrong direction. Sustained. Not good for the housing market. All right, that's what I got for you guys this week. Hey, if you're concerned about your pre-approval, if you're concerned, maybe you're pre-approved with another lender, and you know what? You're not comfortable with your mortgage payment is at whatever your pre-approval amount is. You know what you need to do? You need to talk to your lender. All right, and if they're not answering the phone, you come talk to me. You come talk to the broker, and we'll make sure that your budget is set and that you can go into the home buying process with confidence that you're not making a mistake. You guys have a great weekend. Aloha.